The Angel rookies shine once again against the Rays. Does this team have some young leaders that are ready to step up and lead the Angels back to the playoffs? And how would Arte and Perry respond to Mike Trout's offseason questions? We're going to talk all about it. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. The best way to help us out is by giving us a rate and a review. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you're subscribed and click that bell to be notified every time a new episode drops. And today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
My name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
It's our second season here at Locked On Angels. We're just about to wrap up that second season, but we're going to be here all through the offseason as well, talking about 2024 and doing the best we can to inspire and provide hope.
Dreaming of
yes.
season.
Yes, exactly. Hey, Locked On Everydayers, don't forget that tomorrow is Fan Mail Friday. So what we're going to do is recap this last game that's starting at 10:10 Pacific time today. It's an early one. And then we'll have two segments of Fan Mail Friday on today's show. Let's talk about next year's leaders, and let's also address how Arte and Perry would respond to Mike Trout's questions over the offseason. But first, Mike, let's talk about that big win last night as the Angels win 8-3 and snap a 6-game losing streak.
Yeah, they were led by Brandon Drury, 2 home runs in this game, John.
Drury
5 RBIs, 23 home runs, and 75 RBIs. Gosh, that looks so good in a healthy lineup, doesn't it? It looks good in an unhealthy lineup as well, but it looks good in a healthy lineup. What
and from a second baseman too.
Absolutely, right? Like those are strong numbers. Think like Ryan Sandberg from the Cubs years ago, like having a second baseman that can play strong defense, but also hit the ball a bit. And he missed some time. So great to see him carrying this team right now. He's really the only player right now that has been there from the beginning that is still in this lineup. Johnny, is he a trade piece this offseason, or do you think that Drury is going to be an asset to the team in 2024?
Whew, man, so his value has never been higher.
Yeah.
And so if somebody needs him for their playoff team, I say, you can get a lot back for Brandon Drury this offseason. Would I like to see him be on the Angels in 2024? Absolutely. Do the Angels have somebody who could fill in at second baseman in his place? Maybe if you roll with Luis Rengifo there, but then you kind of got to figure out third base because, in my scenario, I'm giving Luis Rengifo third base and saying, hey, dude, go learn it over the offseason.
Yeah.
And you get to play every day. I know Rendon's still part of the team, but I'm just not counting on Rendon as much as we wanted to. So, man, it's a rock and a hard place because it really depends on what the Angels do with this offseason. Are they going to sell off some assets like Carlos Estevez, like Brandon Drury, and get some pieces back? I trust Perry if that's the direction he wants to go. I mean, look who he got for Noah Syndergaard, and look who he got for Brandon Marsh, right?
Yeah.
So he's able to make the right moves. I think you can get a lot of value out of those two guys, especially Brandon Drury. So I'm caught in the middle right now, Mike. It really is a wait and see game to see how the Angels are going to approach this offseason.
Right. There's a lot of mystery like it was last offseason. The mystery is a bit different this offseason. And if the Angels want to run with those young guys, then I think that you flip Brandon Drury for some pitching. I just wonder if the pitching is going to be major league ready pitching. I think I would assume that Perry and Minasian would go after major league ready pitching because we need it. We desperately need it. And with the rotation we have right now, I think you need to add 2 guys. And we've talked about signing some big free agents, but I think that you can go and get 2 young guys to slide into this rotation. I'm not sure you can get 2 really quality top tier guys for Brandon Drury, but maybe you can get maybe a 2, maybe a 3, and then perhaps a swing man like a Kenny Rosenberg or something like that. But I think the arms is what the Angels have always needed. And I think last year with how the pitching staff improved at the end of the year was kind of an anomaly. And I think what we have learned this season is that there's some work to be done. And speaking of that work, I look at Reid Detmers, John, and him pitching last night, just going 4 innings, giving up 3 hits, 1 run, 7 Ks. He threw 96 pitches. Now, what I noticed is that he threw his changeup more in this game, and he wasn't really throwing that at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
He threw that more. I have a theory. Hear me out, and then give me your thoughts. I think this is who he is, similar to what we talked about when we talked about Sandoval. I think this is who he is. If you don't limit his pitches in the sense that, hey, you got to be pitch efficient instead of just going out there and saying, hey, Reid, throw your best pitches and do your best work. I wonder if he's the guy that just throws a lot of pitches. I wonder if he's a guy that can be effective, but by the end of the 4th and 5th inning, he's going to be in the 90s. I wonder if that's who he is. And I don't want to make excuses for him because I know he's a major league pitcher and he needs to go at least 5 innings, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder if who we saw last night is who Reid Detmers actually is. What do you think of my theory?
I have some pushback, and here's what I noticed from his outing last night. Mike, he's got a great out pitch, but you know what the problem is? He uses that swing and miss pitch on 1-1. And it gets him to 1-2, which is great, and he's ahead in the count. But then what? You already showed off your swing and miss pitch. You showed your best weapon, and now hitters know what to expect. A team like the Rays, they're going to know what to expect.
Sure.
They're a playoff team. They, they dominated to start this season out, and they're going to get to the playoffs. And when you show your hand, when you show your best weapon earlier in the count than you need to, then you're not going to have that strikeout pitch. You're not going to have that put away pitch to use again unless you throw a couple more pitches. And then maybe it's 3-2 and you get a guy to swing and miss on 3-2, which is something that he does. He got 7 Ks in this one.
Right.
But Mike, he just shows his hand way too early.
Yeah.
I'll say the same thing about Patrick Sandoval. These guys want to get ahead in the count, but they show their best weapon and their put away pitch way too early. And what's that a problem with? The coaching. And the coaching needs to be able to address that. I also push back a little bit, and I know you agree with me on this, but the notion that, the Angels need to get some pitching back. I agree with that. Last season being the anomaly that it was, where we saw improvements from Suarez and Detmers and Sandoval, I think that, and you've said it before, talent takes you so far. Coaching is going to push you over the edge. Yeah. And to me, I'm more interested in the offseason moves coaching wise and staff wise and manager wise. I want to know what's going to happen there rather than, I want to go out and get this player or that player. I'm interested to see what happens with the coaching staff.
Right. Because when we get players, who are they going to become is really the question.
Exactly.
We're not
Look at
sure.
Tyler Anderson.
Exactly. We're not sure who they're going to become. Right. And what's interesting about your note there is, well, 2 things. One, let me just throw my theory away. And because I think you have a really great point. And I think that the point is, not just for Reid Detmers, but for this entire pitching rotation outside of Shohei Ohtani, they don't have a shutdown pitch. And if they do, they use it at the wrong time. And so perhaps it's a bit of maturity, not just maturity as a human being, but maturity as a ball player. And I think perhaps it's maturity from the coaching staff to be able to say, hey, this is what you're doing. Let's pivot. Let's adjust. Let's work on a secondary pitch so that you don't have to use your change and then suddenly go, oh, now what do I do? Right? You can have a change and a slider, and then you're going to have a fastball that's going to be really hard to hit. So I think we could all agree, all Angel fans, especially the everydayers, can agree that this pitching rotation needs to mature up a bit, right?
Yeah, agreed. And you got to be able to be inside the head of the hitter as well. And I don't think there was anybody better than that, than my favorite Angel of all time, Jared Weaver.
Yeah.
Because he knew what pitch to throw and when, because he knew what the guy at the plate was thinking. You hear Mark Gubicza say it all the time. Hey, you throw something high, he's might be expecting something low. I don't know. That's a silly example, but I'm just saying, like, but hear he does do that. Talk about it all the time. You hear Langston do it on the radio all the time. These guys know how to get inside the head of the hitter at the plate.
Well, even Tim Salmon, when he was in the booth and now he's in the dugout. Yeah, Tim is that guy where he knows what pitch is coming, and so maybe there's something that they can do with Tim. I would love to see him more involved. I don't know exactly what his role is, but I would love to see him more involved with the pitchers, not just the hitters, because I think that he could give the pitchers a sense of, hey, here's what a hitter's thinking in this moment. And that could be a game changer, I think, for these young guys on this team. And speaking of those young guys, Johnny, talk about Nolan Schanuel. That guy now is just really impressing. And 4 months ago, let's just remind everybody, 4 months ago, he was in college.
Yeah, not swinging a wood bat either in
Right,
college.
right.
A 24-game on-base streak, Mike, and now that is the active streak that is rolling for Nolan Schanuel.
Yep.
Zach Neto, 2 hits in this one with a run scored and an RBI. Just great to see the young players really shining in this game against a really tough Tampa Bay team. They really got to Aaron Civale. Aaron Civale had not given up a multi-run home run all season long with guys on base. And so they were able to do that in this one. The Halos scored 6 2-out runs in this game.
That's
and
great.
They came early and they came often. And with all of the runners in scoring position issues that they've had, they did have the bases loaded and there were back-to-back strikeouts. But 2-out RBIs have not been an issue.
It seems like that's when they score most of their runs, right? When they get 2 outs and suddenly they're starting to hit, which I think is a great concept to carry into 2024. And hopefully that can continue to be a part of what they're doing offensively. It's the runners in scoring position piece that really needs to be worked on, because we saw, again, what you mentioned, the strikeouts with the bases loaded. You got to make contact in those moments. You have to be able to try at least move the runners over or get the ball in the air. And you hear Langston and Gooby talk about that often. Like, got to get the ball in the air. You got to try to lift it so that the runner at third base can come around and score.
That's why I'm glad Stefanik is back too. He went 2 for 3 and made contact
every time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
I love seeing this guy in the lineup.
Absolutely. Hey, the Angels are playing the Rays today at 10:10 Pacific time, 10:10 in the morning.
Woo!
Get your coffee ready. Hey, you can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels. Coming up, how would Arte and Perry respond to Mike Trout's offseason questions regarding the Halos? We'll do our best to share what we think they're going to say and why we think they're going to say it.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by the Game Time app. Johnny, I'm going to give you a question and answer, and I believe that all of the questions that I'm asking are going to be yes on your end. So let's just confirm, okay? We want to find out if Game Time is telling us the truth or if they're liars, all right? So let's find out. Okay, first of all, using the Game Time app is fast and easy. Now, you went into a concert, you watched the Counting Crows and Dashboard Confessional, and you used the Game Time app. So, Johnny, was buying tickets on the Game Time app fast and easy? Yes or no?
Yes.
And can you get tickets to football, basketball, baseball, and concerts?
Yes, it's all there. In fact, I've gotten baseball tickets on there too.
Johnny, did you see that they had the best price guarantee and event cancellation protection?
Yes, I did.
John, did you buy your tickets in a matter of seconds with just 2 taps and you were set?
I was set.
John, did you see the images of your seats before you bought them so that you would know exactly where you were sitting?
I did, and I was blown away by the seats I got for the concert, by the way.
And John, were the tickets sent directly to your phone and not in your email, so you'd have to dig through your email?
Yeah, I don't want to go in my email. There's tons of stuff in there. Yeah.
So confirmation is Game Time are truth tellers.
That's
They're
right.
telling us the truth. They actually work. This is great. I love that. So you can download the Game Time app right now. And when you do, create an account and use our code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. So again, create an account, use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Hey, friends, we have a Fan Mail Friday, 2 segments of Fan Mail Friday coming up tomorrow. And you can get at us on social media at Locked On Angels, at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. You can even give us a call on our voicemail line, 714-409-6396. That number is also in the episode description below. Leave us like a 30-second or less voicemail, and we'll do our best to get it on the show. Hey, the Angels are back at it, 10:10 Pacific time today against the Rays. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. Just search Angels.
A lot of young guys on this Angel team right now, which gets us hopeful, right? And maybe we're suckers, but we're hopeful because
I like them. They're good.
Great to see them, right? I really like them. There's 2 specific ones that we've talked about a lot, and Jeff Fletcher actually wrote an article about them, and that's Zach Neto and Logan Ohtani. So, Don, I want to give you some highlights of this article, and then I've got a couple of questions for you. First of all, Jeff said that as he interviewed Phil Nevin, Nevin said that these are the 2 kinds of players who can shape a clubhouse, and boy, does this clubhouse need to be shaken and shaped, right? Like shaken and stirred. They need to be messed with. On Ohtani, Nevin said that he is the type of frontline leader that if you want to say that that's been lacking here, It has. He needs to be that leader. He can be that leader. And you don't want to say that it's been lacking there. It has been, Phil. It has been lacking.
Well,
in
it's
the
just
Angels
what an admission at the end of the day, because all we heard was like, yeah, Rendon's a good clubhouse guy. And
right.
And now we know, you felt this way all season, that what's lacking is a frontline leader. Good, Phil. Glad to hear it.
Phil also said that he is somebody that can take over that role. Speaking of Ohtani, he said, obviously we have some veteran players that provide leadership as well. But when you look at the long-term grand scheme of things, I can see Logan being one of those guys. He said Ohtani established himself as soon as he got to the majors last year. Nevin said he took over the pitchers and catchers meeting as soon as he arrived. I love hearing that.
That's amazing.
I love hearing that because he's bringing some youthful energy. And we've talked about this on the show regularly, but when you're involved in something, sometimes you're not necessarily aware of everything, right? Because you're so close to it. And Ohtani bringing a fresh perspective, I'm sure sparked some of the energy that we saw at the beginning of the year. And then his injury probably slowed that down a bit, but he came into the room and he just took over those meetings. And Phil also said, when Ohtani needs to say something, he says it. He doesn't care who's around him. He has the toughness. He's not worried about what people think about him. He wants to win. He wants to lead. That way is the attitude. That's the attitude that we need, and it rubs off on people. And then Moustakas actually addressed Ohtani and who he is, and he said he's a natural leader, Johnny. And I think we see that in this guy, including what he said when he was on the IL. He was ready to come back. He was feeling really good, especially after his surgery. This dude is, I think, a potential leader for this team. But not only that, so is Zach Neto. So why don't you tell us a bit about Zach Neto?
Yeah, Nevin said that the Angels are obviously better when Neto is on the field. They have a .552 winning percentage when he's on the field versus a .388 winning percentage when he's not on the field. Nevin said that's a different feel, or there's a different feel when he's on the field. That's just the way it is. There are certain players that bring instant energy and their presence, and Neto is one of those guys. Tyler Anderson on Neto, he said his defense is huge. If you can shore up defense at shortstop, a premium position, it's a huge thing. He has good at bats. He's a really good player to have.
Johnny, we talk often about how Trout and Ohtani are a 1-2 punch, and yet with Trout not being able to be on the field, we haven't really been able to see that combination as often, right? So let's go down to 5 for just a minute. I know it's Locked On Angels, but let's talk about the Dodgers for a minute. I think the Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman 1-2 punch is probably the best in baseball right now. There could be some arguments made for like Austin Riley and Ronald Acuna and some of the other players, but those two guys down the 5 are fantastic. The reason why I bring that up is, do you think that there's a potential for next season with Logan Ohtani and Zach Neto being the team leaders and being maybe the 1-2 punch that this Angel team has needed for so many years?
I like the fact that these young guys are stepping up and taking control of leadership, because who else is going to do it? And who else has been doing it, Mike?
Right.
I mean, look, like we've talked about this over and over again. Mike Trout gets there and Albert Pujols is there and Torrey Hunter's there. The Torrey's gone and then Hamilton comes in and it's Albert's locker room, and then Justin Upton's there and Albert's gone, and now it's Justin's the veteran in the room. I like that these guys have come in and said like, oh, we're gonna take ownership of this. Like, we're gonna be here and own it. And the truth is like their play speaks for themselves. The winning percentage with Zach Neto, the fact that Shohei Ohtani trusted Logan Ohtani in his first full season to be the catcher he wanted to throw to, says a lot about who Logan Ohtani is. And it's quite the investment from Shohei Ohtani in Logan Ohtani. So I like the fact that these guys have come in and just said, yeah, we'll do it. We'll take over. We can own this place. I know it's a lot of pressure to put on young guys, but you can't deny the fact that the Angels are better with these two on this team, and they're better when they're in the lineup at the same time. Now, in terms of 1-2 punch in the batting order, maybe you consider Schanuel at 1 and Neto at 2. I really like that. And maybe Logan Ohtani is the third guy. Kind of like him down in the order because he's got some power, so he can drive in some runs there. But if those two are getting on in front of him, and your 2-3 is Zach Neto and Logan Ohtani, that could be a lot of fun to watch too. And it all depends on, what this offseason looks like with Trout and how his role in all of this is going to happen and go down. So I'm just thrilled to see these guys step up and take the opportunities that are right in front of them.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by FanDuel. You can get in on all the action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers like you can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options on the spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season the right way. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL.
So, Mike, last episode, we talked about the questions that Mike Trout should ask of Arte Moreno and Perry Minasian, and it was a lot of, Arte, are you going to sell this team? Perry, what's the plan for the offseason? And now we want to know what those questions, what the answers might be to those questions is what I should say. And so we put our heads together and thought, hey, how would Arte and Perry respond to Mike Trout? And based upon their behavior, based upon their history, based upon their track record. So why don't you start with Arte Moreno?
All right. So again, just to affirm, like we were looking at what Arte has done in the last 10 years specifically and answering those questions. We don't want to answer it out of this deep desire that everything's going to be Disneyland, right? Even though it's really close, that everything's going to be perfect. And so how would Arte respond? So the question we posed yesterday that Mike would ask Arte is, what are your future plans? Are you keeping this team or are you selling this team? I would assume, based on what we've learned and because of recent history, that Arte's answer to that question would be, no, I'm keeping this team and I will do what is needed to contend. Mm-hmm. Now, here's what that answer actually means, John. I think it means that I'm going to continue to make money with the Angels. We're going to continue to do the strategy thing that we've done in making this a business. And I will try to contend while continuing to make money. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? I think that's how Arte would respond. So I want to make money. And I also want to contend, but making money is going to be the priority over contending.
The words mean one thing, but the truth of the matter is a whole separate thing. Here's another one of those examples, Mike. If Mike Trout were to ask Arte, what are you planning to do with Ohtani and how can I help? The answer from Arte is, I'm going to try to re-sign him and I want you to be part of those meetings, Mike. Mm-hmm. And what that answer actually means, if you were to, we always say, look at the underlying numbers. And so let's look at the underlying thought behind that answer of, I'm going to try to resign him. I'm going to make sure the media and the fans know how much we offered and the years and the details of the contract to make it look like we did our due diligence. I think that it's going to be one big facade from Arte Moreno out there to say, well, we really tried with Shohei Ohtani, just like we tried with Beltre and Zach Greinke, and we really tried. We tried with Garrett Cole, and just they didn't want to be here. No, you went to the table, you had a counter offer, and you threw your hands up because you're too snooty to try and deal and make a good deal for a really good player at the end of the day. So again, I think the Angels, and by virtue of that, Arte Moreno, they're going to try to, do what they can to sign Shohei, but you're going to find out, that they made an effort and but they didn't get him. And, we really tried, Mike. Yeah. We really tried, John. Sorry we couldn't do it, is how that's going to go down this offseason.
I like that you went to whisper John there. Yeah, we really tried.
Sometimes.
Now, with GMPM, I think that there's a bit more integrity. We have a shorter window of kind of looking at what he's done. Yeah. But I do think that there's some integrity there because he has made some good decisions in drafting and getting some of the young guys and in some of his trades. You mentioned free agents, not so great. So based on his recent history, here's how we believe he would answer Trout's question. So first question would be, what are your plans for next year and the future of this team? Are we choosing to win? What's the strategy? We're convinced that Perry would say, we're going to build from within, that he's going to get the pieces necessary to try and win. But most of the pieces that we're going to get will be from within or via trade. We're going to try to get young, but contend and do the best we can with the pieces that we have right now.
I also like what you had added here too, is just, we want to win with our guys. And I think that is what I think they're moving forward with. I like the fact that they want to win with the guys that they have. Who's managing this team next year? I think the answer is simple. Someone who's going to work cohesively with the front office, because
Yeah.
you and I have talked about that word many times. Cohesion. There's no continuity up and down from the front office to the coaching to the players on the field. And they need somebody. Perry needs somebody that he gets to pick to be his manager, because he hasn't had that opportunity yet. Don't tell me he wanted Phil Nevin this season. That was purely out of the Angels' desperation, because the Angels were going to sell and they weren't going to sell, and you're not going to hire somebody who is just going to get let go at the end of the year. So don't tell me Perry Minasian wanted Phil Nevin on this as the manager in this one.
Right. The other question that we posed that we thought Mike Trout should ask GMPM was, who are my coaches? And I think the response from GMPM will be, I want coaches that understand analytics, but also can ride the tension of being a coach, that can do the eye test, that can use their experience and balance that out. But I want coaches that are going to be able to work on extension and pitch efficiency, but also say, hey, maybe if you slowed down your slider a bit, Reid, you'd actually be a bit more effective and strike out these guys. So that's what I think he would respond with, based off of what we've seen from Perry in the last few years.
Last question. Will you trade me to the team I want? And the answer from Perry Minasian to Mike Trout would probably be something along the lines of, only if you want to. If you want to go, we really want you here. And I know that you could be a great leader to these young guys and be a great example of the kind of player these guys want to grow up and turn into as they progress through their career. So again, I think they'll give Mike Trout the option if he wants to go. And if that's something he wants to do, I don't think the Angels are going to fight him on that. At the same time, I'm sure that they'll make a case for having him on the team and letting him know that he's a benefit to these guys. And maybe, Mike, just maybe, with his influence, these guys get better and they put something nice together that looks decent next season, because, again, they want to win with their guys. Again, I want to watch a team with these guys. I know that, in this last year, guaranteed year of Ohtani, we went out to get pieces that we needed to try to get this team to the playoffs, and it looked good for a while until there was a lot of injuries that piled up. We ran into some tough teams, yada, yada, yada. You all know how it went. At the end of the day, if we're pushing forward with a team of young Angels and a mix of veterans, I'll watch that. That'll be the best show on TV. And if they suck next year, then maybe 2025 won't suck, right?
Yeah.
Like I think I said it yesterday. No expectations. I don't want to have any expectations with this team. I just want to watch them and be delighted when they do well. And when they don't, okay, you know what? They'll get better. They're working on getting better at the end of the day. So again, a team with no expectations is something I'm okay with. But if Trout wants to stay, I would be thrilled about that, because I'm a huge Mike Trout fan.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels do play the Tampa Bay Rays at 10:10 this morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. You can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Maybe she meant 10 at night.
I just thought she was a raging alcoholic.
Hey, friends, you can give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels, on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Of course, you can get your questions to us for Fan Mail Friday there, which is taking place tomorrow. So get those questions in. We really appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Until tomorrow's show, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the good conversation. Get down in our comments if you're watching on YouTube, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Are you wearing an ESPN shirt the day after Bozo Stephen A. Smith said what he said?